Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by a very special guest. Freshman of the Mercyhurst women's hockey team, Jersey Phillips, joins the show today. Welcome to the podcast, Jersey, and thank you so much for coming on. How's everything going?
Thanks so much for having me, and everything's good. I'm getting ready to move out today. Today was the last day of classes, so everything's wrapping up this year, which is kind of sad, but no, it's all good.
Yeah, let's kind of reflect on this past year for yourself. What have you been up to since the season ended a couple of months ago, and anything interesting?
I wouldn't say anything interesting, just kind of same old, same old. Working out, hopping on the ice, a little more fun because it's not as stressful with the coaches on the ice. But no, as a team, we've been pushing ourselves ever since the last game of CHAs. I think next year we'll be ready to come back, ready to fight back.
Yeah, definitely. I guess like school has been kind of a hybrid model for yourself. How have you adjusted to the new way school's being done?
Right, yeah. So some classes were all online, which is nice in some ways, but it's hard to not be in person with everyone and not ever get to meet your teacher. Um, but I think the hybrid classes weren't too bad. They did a good job here at Mercyhurst. We have small class size numbers anyways, so it wasn't too bad. School was definitely a strong suit for myself this year.
That's good to hear. And I guess like how'd you deal with the Zoom breakout rooms? Because that's something that I despise. I don't know about yourself.
Yeah, they're kind of awkward. They're weird when you get in there, no one starts talking, and then I'm kind of like, "Hello, everybody. You gonna talk back?" Or, but
Yeah.
it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, that's good. And I'm glad school's wrapping up for myself. It's just been a long year because it's been all online and I just had my final class today, so I'm on the same boat you
Nice.
are.
Right, right. Oh, that stinks. You didn't go in person at all?
No, it was all online and especially for my freshman year, it was definitely not the way I imagined college to be like.
Yeah, not at all. I'm sorry to hear that.
No, don't worry. Hopefully next year we'll be back in campus and it'll be kind of somewhat normalcy. We'll return for next semester.
Right, right.
Now,
Gotcha.
what are some of your off-season plans, I guess? Like, what do you hope to work on in regards to your game?
A lot of off-ice training. I feel myself, I was underprepared off the ice with lifting, so I'm definitely focusing on that strength this year. Conditioning, obviously, I'm going to work that in, but that's kind of a strong suit of mine, my speed. But on ice, I'd kind of say same thing, just maintaining everything, and then keep working on my conditioning because you got to keep up with yourself when you work out and get stronger. Then you lose something, so kind of keeping that the same. But yep.
Now, I want to transition a little bit and talk about the beginning of your hockey career and work all the way up to where you are now with Mercyhurst. So you're from New York in a town called, hopefully I pronounced this correctly, Cheektowaga. Um,
Yep.
what's it like growing up there and how did you start playing hockey?
Right. So I started playing hockey at a rink about 7 or 8 minutes away from my house, and throughout the 12 years following, I never changed. So I always have been with the Buffalo Regals, which has its good and bad sides of it. But yeah, I started learned to skate at Holiday Twin Rinks and hated it as soon as I stepped on the ice. And then as my parents progressed to push me and make me go on the ice, I started to like it more. And then they put a stick in my hand, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to ever come off the ice. And um, once I played with the boys only till I was 9 or 10, and then we transitioned to all girls, got on an all girls team, and we kind of started. There weren't many girls teams at the Regals at the time, and from there we started a core group, and we just moved up together, grew up together, and played with each other forever. Abby Ruggiero, I played with her for 9 or 10 years of my life. So
Hmm. Yeah, I know we had Abby on the podcast a few weeks ago. What was she like as a teammate, both on and off the ice? And just do you have any good stories about your time together with the Regals?
right, yeah. Me and Abby have kind of a sister relationship. We have our ups and downs, but she was definitely like we pushed each other throughout our time at the Regals, and we were super excited for each other whenever we got named to a camp or we committed, and like we always pushed each other. Um, and as for the Regals as a whole, so many awesome experiences with those girls. They're like family. I still keep in touch with the majority of them. We were just one of those teams where you had the same group of girls and maybe a few, one or two, three left every year, but for the most part, we all stuck together throughout our entire hockey career, which was just awesome.
Now, growing up, did you have a favorite particular player to watch?
Tyler Ennis. He was my player. So growing up, I was number 63. He played for the Sabres, but he was a little short guy, and I kind of was like, oh, I'm short, I'm tiny, I kind of look like him, and that's why he was my guy.
Nice. And were you like a Sabres fan growing up?
I was until the past 5 years where they're just not good at all, and it's tough to watch. So currently, I am a Rangers fan the past 5 years.
Oh, nice, nice. Talk about the Ryan Miller retirement announcement, I guess, because I know he was a huge thing back in Buffalo a few years ago, and he's probably, in my opinion, the best American goalie to ever play.
Oh, absolutely. Other than the biggest play that has been televised for him was Sidney Crosby scoring on him
Yeah.
in the Olympics. But other than that, honestly, growing up, like I had a fat head of him in my wall in my room. Like he was a big role model, even though he was a goalie. Um, but yeah, he was awesome. It's good for him for retiring and taking off the pads, hanging up the skates. But no, it was an awesome career.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm a huge Jack Eichel fan. I loved watching him with BU, and he's such a talented player, and it's fun to watch him with Buffalo. And hopefully, in the few years, Buffalo can get some guys around him to make him better because he's such a great talent, and you don't want to see him leave that type of team.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised if he does leave. That's just what I've been hearing. Within the year, he wants out, which it is what it is, because he is on one of those teams that they're not producing, which I feel bad for. But in my opinion, if he was that good of a player, he would be turning the game around and taking it into his own hands, and he'd be winning those games. But he's not. So
hmm I understand. I just think hockey is such a team sport. It's like an individual can't win any game in hockey, and that's why I think it's the best sport in my opinion. Because in
that's
basketball, you
fair.
see sometimes a player can take over a game and win a game for a team, and you can
That's
see
true.
it in football as well. But I think hockey is you don't ever see that. Maybe like McDavid has done it a few times, but that's about it.
Right. Right. That's true. That's true.
So let's get back to your hockey career. So before Mercyhurst, you were talking about how you used to play for the Buffalo Regals. How'd you get the opportunity to play there?
Like I said, I started there, and then actually my coach was actually Abby's dad. So he's like an uncle to me, and he brought a few girls over to the Regals to start our little travel. I guess you could call it a mole team. We were like a house team, but we traveled. Um, and then from there, we just grew as a team, and then we stuck we stuck with Mole for a year, then went to travel. We played up, and then we played the Canadian League. So when we played in the Canadian League, we got our butts kicked a little bit in the beginning, and then we played in Lower Lakes, and then we played. We were obviously eligible for Tier 1 nationals every year, but we only made it twice. My 14U year, and then my my second last year, so my major 16U year. But yeah, that's how that went.
Do you have like a favorite particular memory you've had with the Regals?
I think just going to California that nationals year in 2019, I believe, it was just an awesome experience. Like we played really, really well. Unfortunately, we didn't advance um, past the first round. I think we let in like 2 goals the entire tournament in 3 games and went 1-1-1. And the way it went, we didn't move on, which was weird. But we played really well, and then we were able to go out for the rest of the vacation, and it was like a vacation with your best friends, with your like the whole team. So it was awesome.
Where in California were you guys playing in?
Irvine, I believe. We flew into Orange County, so we stayed there a little bit, and then as a team, for the most part we all went to like Hollywood, and then we went to one of the beaches. So many beaches there, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that's cool. I've never been to LA. I've actually never really been to the West Coast at all. I've only been here in the East Coast, so it's something I've always wanted to visit. So that's pretty cool that you got that opportunity to play hockey there because
it's not really what you'd think
yeah.
in the pictures,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's still cool. You should definitely make your way out there.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Now, how did playing for the Regals help prepare you for college hockey with Mercyhurst?
Oh, it absolutely prepared me. I was able to, with Coach Tom, he would individualize like my skill. He was able to understand over the past years how I develop, how I am as a player, and he was able to pick apart everything because he saw everything from the beginning to then. So I think that was a big part of it. And then yeah, playing in the Canadian League. Unfortunately, they wouldn't let us in the PWHL, but playing midget double A for I think 3 years definitely prepared me. And then when we got to play tier one teams and games in the U.S. Definitely prepared me.
Yeah, and you were named captain of the Regals. What did that mean to yourself, and what type of leadership did you want to bring?
Yeah, I think being co-captains with Abby brought us together with our little fights. But as a whole, I think it's always an honor to be a leader on any team. I don't like the whole label thing. If you're going to be a leader, you can be a leader without having anything on your jersey, and anyone can. But I think it was a confidence thing, and it was like, oh well, they really do think I'm a leader of this team and I can do it and I got to speak up and act like a leader. So I think that was a big part of it.
Now, what was your recruitment process like, and why did you want to go to Mercyhurst?
Yeah, my recruitment process was kind of short just because I always had Mercyhurst in the back of my head. So if it was ever became an option, it was like, oh, I want to go there. So my freshman year, I believe in October, I want to say, I was recruited by one of the coaches who isn't here anymore. But and then Coach Sisti came to see me at our state tournament, and then from there I offered me, and I was like, absolutely, like I want to come here, and I was glad, even though it was 4 years, I had to wait till I got here. It was the best decision I ever made. I love it here.
Yeah, and what's it been like to play under Coach Sisti, and what have you learned about the game under him so far in your first year?
Well, I don't know if you know, but he was record Hall of Famer setter in at Canisius College, so he knows what he's talking about. He's been here. He started the program here. No other coach has coached the Mercyhurst Lakers women's team, which is pretty cool. But he's definitely old school, like an old school coach. Everything by the book. He's a tough coach, but definitely knows what he's talking about and pushes you to where you should and can be. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and he got his 3,000th win or 500th win. My apologies. This year, what was it like to see him get that accomplishment?
Right. I think going into this year, we kind of knew what we'd hope. I think we needed 2 wins to get it, so he's at 498. And I remember our games just kept getting like pushed back, then canceled, and our assistant coaches were like frustrated because they had everything planned for this and for those weekends because we were hoping to win those games or at least win one and then the next weekend. And then we finally got to play RIT, I believe, and got the first one. And then we're like, oh my goodness, we can get one more. We had everything planned. And I think we had like little confetti poppers in the locker room after, which was awesome. So it was a good experience.
Now, obviously, this year's college hockey season was a lot different compared to other seasons in the past. Challenges did you have to experience this year, and how did you overcome them?
Right. I think honestly for myself coming in, I was a little nervous as any kid would be going into college. Um, but I think the whole COVID thing, it was unknown territory for everyone, no matter who you are, coaches or the players or normal students. So I think the unknown territory kind of leveled the playing field a little bit. So I wasn't just thrown into the mix. I wasn't thrown in the first and second week into a practice. It was kind of like, oh, you just skate around with the girls and get to know them, do some team bonding, which really, really helped. That we had a good core leadership group this year, which some of them are coming back for their 5th year, but the leadership definitely allowed our team to become as close as we were, which I'm so glad I came the year I did. But as much as the year was different, it really wasn't. It was just a matter of travel, right? Because we played all of our league games except for I think 2. So we were able to get games in. We just didn't travel as far, which is okay with us. We'll have more games at our rink. But it I enjoyed this year.
Yeah, definitely. And what was the biggest adjustment you had to make to college hockey? Was it the speed of the game or just the mental side of the game since you were making quicker decisions with the puck?
Oh, absolutely. The speed of the game is completely different. Watching it, you're like, oh, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. And then you get there and you're on the ice with them and you're like, oh my goodness, they're really fast. They make decisions really quick. Those shots are really hard. Um, and I'm still adjusting to that. Um, we'll forever continue to adjust to that. But it was definitely a big step. Speed and, yes, the mental part of it, making those decisions quicker.
Now, what was the biggest improvement you've made to your game this past year?
Uh, my biggest improvement might have been adjusting as much as I did. I didn't think I would be able to as early as I did. I still have ways to go, don't get me wrong. But it was definitely, I knew there was going to be a wake up call as soon as I stepped on the ice with these girls. And I think I hopped in quickly and not too bad and um, starting to pave my way onto that team.
Yeah, and talk about your freshman class that was on the team this year. You guys were a very big class, but you guys had a lot of great contributors on the team this year. Just talk about the impact that your class had on Mercyhurst hockey this year.
Oh, absolutely. I think our top freshmen definitely contributed to the team, obviously on the scoreboard. Um, but not only that, like everyone accepted us, as, even though we were a large class size, like everyone accepted us as a team. And because of that, we were able to like become a team, if that makes sense. We were able to become a closer knit team because they accepted us. And I don't know if that was years past, but I just felt differently. And I think some of the girls verbalized that it's this year was different as a team. But I think our freshman class definitely was able to step up, and I hope moving on, we're able to even more and take on the role of the seniors last year and these upcoming seniors. So, yeah.
Was it weird not playing in front of any fans, and how'd you adjust to that?
Yeah, it was weird. My parents were always saying growing up the first game because I'm from Buffalo, so it's an hour and a half drive. They always said my first game they're gonna get a big bus, a Greyhound bus, and drive all their friends to the game and have big, you know, everyone in the stands. And then that first game came around and no one was there. Like I knew it, but it was kind of like, oh, that first game was gonna be a really big deal, regardless if I played. But which was a little different. But not having people in the stands, it's not the best, but we were able to get a few games with fans in, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, and 3-on-3 overtime was also introduced to college hockey this year. How'd you adjust to the more space on the ice and more offensive opportunities to score goals?
Right, we implemented it into practice a lot throughout the season, just because we knew we'd have some tight games. Um, but I think as a team, we did a good job with that. I only think 2 or 3 games went in overtime that we had to worry about. Unfortunately, the CHA semifinal game, which we won't talk about, but that's definitely something that's a big change and difference that we need to adjust to as a whole. And I think we're going to continue to work on that.
You have to be a little more defensively minded in those 3-on-3 overtime situations because if you make one little defensive mistake, it can cause an odd man rush.
Oh, absolutely. There's odd man rushes every way. One odd man rush and then the other. It just keeps going, which is awesome. I love that concept of 3-on-3 hockey.
Now, how did you deal with all the schedule changes that happened to your schedule this year with all the postponements and dates that got switched? I guess, like, how'd you mentally deal with that? And what was the key for maintaining flexibility for this year?
I think as a team, we kind of like had each other's backs on that. We would always talk about like we're getting ready for this game, but it might not happen. So don't hype yourselves up too much. But then we're like, we got to hype ourselves up. We got a game coming. Um, we actually did have a week where we were in quarantine, and that was frustrating. I think we were able to get all our emotions out there, and then we were like, okay, we're ready to play hockey now. It's go time. We're serious. But if it wasn't really an individual thing, we worried about it as a team and dealt with it as a team, which was pretty cool.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the CHA playoffs that you were just in. You unfortunately lost to Robert Morris. Talk about that game and what did you take away from it?
It was a tough game. It was back and forth the whole time. I think goaltending on both sides was good. Um, they're obviously our rivals, so we've always had a good rivalry with them. Every game's chippy, back and forth. Sometimes out of conference games, not everyone knows each other, but like we know that entire roster up and down, all their names, and I know it was a good game. They're a good team, and hopefully we get them back next year.
What was going through your head when they scored that overtime goal?
It was frustrating. It was more frustrating for me thinking about the seniors who wouldn't be coming back, just because that was it. That was just that one shot, and that was it. That was the end of it. But for us coming back, it was a motivator. As soon as that puck went in, girls stepped on the ice and said, "We're getting them back next year." So.
Now, how was playoff hockey different from regular season hockey from your experience so far?
From my experience, it's just not much changed. Even like before games and during the game, not much changes. You just gotta. It's more nerves, if anything. That's what changes. It's a lot more intense. But obviously, it was only one game that I had experience of. So.
Now, I want to ask you about some of the teammates you get to play with. The first teammate I'm going to ask you about is Sarah Boucher. She's a goal scoring machine. What's it like being your teammate both on and off the ice?
Right, yeah, she's got a shot. You get her the puck, she'll put it in the net. So that's always awesome. I wasn't on a line with her much this year, unfortunately, so I wasn't able to play with her a lot. But hopefully, moving forward, I will, and we'll put some pucks in the net together.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to ask you about your captain, Alexa Vasco. What's she like as a teammate, both on and off the ice? And just talk about the leadership that she brings to your team because she's one of my favorite college hockey players to watch.
Oh, absolutely. Ever since I committed and came to all these games, watching Mercyhurst, she was the one I watched. I admire her game so much. She's a grinder. She's the hardest worker I've ever seen, and the best leader I've ever seen. I know this is a lot of like the best, but I kid you not. I look up to her so much, and on and off the ice, she's always trying to make people better, always trying to like keep people in line, but also like be friends with you in the same way because you're a teammate. But yeah, she's an awesome person, an awesome hockey player.
You also get to play with Rachel Marmon, who is another leader on your in the senior class. What's she like as a teammate, both on and off the ice? And just talk about the defensive abilities that she has, because I love watching her skate the puck up and down the ice, and she can just do it so flawlessly, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. She's an awesome skater. She handles the puck with ease, up like you said, up and down the ice. She's as a defenseman can easily lead rushes. Unfortunately, she's not coming back next year for her fifth year. She's kind of ready to start her life and leave college. But like I said, coming in this year with the leadership group we had, I couldn't even imagine coming in at a different year. It was just awesome this year, very welcoming and very good role models.
Now, the last teammate I'm going to ask you about is Grace Nellis. I think she's one of the most underrated players in college hockey. She's so fun to watch play. She's such a great hockey player. What's she like as a teammate, both on and off the ice as well?
Oh, Nelsy, I love Nelsy. She's a hard worker too. She's a grinder. I think she found herself midway through the season. Was just frustrated with herself, couldn't put pucks in the net. Finally did, and kind of all let loose from there. But she's a great hockey player. I look forward to working with her the next few years. But yeah.
So I want to ask you this. So this World Championships were recently canceled they were supposed to be playing, I think, right now, but they unfortunately got canceled. They got rescheduled to August. But what was your reaction on that situation, and just how do you think that situation can be used to help grow women's hockey?
I think it was absolutely unacceptable. I don't think you can do that and then a week later have the guys' World Juniors and still go on. Um, I, I was speechless. We were in the locker room actually, and one of my teammates looked at her phone and kind of said, oh my God, like the World Juniors got canceled. Like Vasco had to leave early from Mercier. She would have graduated. Obviously, she's coming back next year, but she could have stayed. She could have enjoyed her last few weeks of college this summer. Like it was just frustrating from everyone. And then the fact that it's women's hockey and, like I said, not the guys. It's very frustrating. But I'm glad they rescheduled it. Hopefully it doesn't interfere. Hopefully we get Vasco back at the beginning of next year. But yeah, that's my take on that.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be good too because it's in August, so there's not a lot of stuff going on around that time. So hopefully it brings more eyes to the game.
Right, absolutely.
Now, another thing I want to ask you about is there's been a lot of talk about letting hitting going on in women's hockey. In your opinion, do you think there should be hitting in women's hockey?
For myself, no, just because I'm not the biggest player out there, and it's a completely different game. When I played actually skate with the boys the other day, and it's just a completely different game when you hit. Some of those suicide passes in guys hockey would be a normal good pass when you're skating backwards and catch a pass. You don't have to worry about that. I it would completely change the game. So no, I don't think it should change. I haven't actually heard anything, but that's kind of scary to me.
No, I don't think there's any like there's just I've heard some talk around the internet of potentially letting it happen, but nothing like official. So I was just wanting to get your opinion on it, just because I like asking college hockey players about that because they've been in hockey for so long and they've obviously been very successful in the sport as well.
Right, yeah, it's just a completely different game. If they do it, they do it. If not,
Mhm.
whatever. So
So we're now in the segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I ask you some non-hockey questions. However, the first question is somewhat off a hockey-related question. I'm excited to get your take on this because you're a Rangers fan. What was your thoughts on the Tom Wilson situation that happened this week, and do you think he deserved to be suspended for at least a game?
Okay, I think he was defending his goalie for one. But to an extent, I think he went a little too far in the $5,000 fine. I don't think that was adequate. I think it should have been a little bit more than that. And the fact that he came back on the ice the next game, obviously last night, and as you could see, the line brawl, and then
Mhm.
another one, and then another one, which is not hockey. Fights are part of the game, but that's not hockey. Um, but yeah, I didn't agree with one the Panarin hit without his helmet on, and then I don't know what the other hit was, but it does not represent hockey very well.
Yeah, and then he like flexed in the penalty box, which I feel like made a situation worse. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, without his jersey on. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then a guy on the bench last night did it back to him, which was kind of funny on the Rangers. So
Yeah, no, the Rangers got fined $250,000 for the statement they made regarding George Peros. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I did not hear about that, and that is ridiculous. Seeing as, like I said, Wilson only the $5,000 fine. I did not know about that, so that makes me even more frustrated about that situation.
Now, I'm a Bruins fan, but that was one of the most entertaining hockey games I've seen this year just because of all the fighting that happened. But then the story with TJ Oshie, because he lost his father a couple of days ago and then scored a hat trick the first game he played after his death. I thought that was an incredible story and a good way to kind of move on from that situation.
Absolutely. Even though I'm a Rangers fan, I was rooting and pulling for him. The first one went in, the second one, and then the empty netter. So that was awesome. It was sad to see him like have a tear in his eye on the bench, but you know it was all for him. That
Mhm.
entire game was for him. So
So, what music do you like to listen to before a game or just on a general basis?
I have some SoundCloud mashups I listen to, or like Big Booty. They play that in the locker room, but just pump up music, I guess.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
Biggest pet peeve in hockey or in anything?
It could be both.
That's a tough question. I said it the other day to someone. I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
I think for myself, probably bad drivers or wind. And wind is kind of an odd one, but like it's been really going a lot. There's been a lot of wind lately, and it's been pretty annoying to say the least because the house shakes and it bothers me a lot. Um, and then bad drivers, it just bothers me. So those are my
That's fair.
two.
That's fair. Get off the roads if you can't drive. I get that.
Definitely, definitely. I guess like for a hockey pet peeve, probably like when people have like terrible tape jobs on their stick. It really urges me for some reason. It's kind of an odd one, but that's mine for hockey
Like
purposes.
Tim Stutzel's his bad tape job.
Yeah, I just don't like it. I personally put a lot of tape on my stick, like because I want to grip it, and then I want the puck to like kind of be on the stick when I use it. So that's my personal opinion
Right.
on what a good tape job is. And when I see people have like no tape on their stick, it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, well, that's usually the pros, and they can usually just go through sticks like it's nothing. So,
Yeah, especially yeah, because when you're playing youth hockey, if you break a stick, that's like $200 right down the drain. So you have to like
exactly.
like not break it. But in the NHL, you can break like 10 sticks per game, and it's like here you go, here you go, here you go. It's like not a big deal.
Exactly, which is frustrating, but that's why they're the pros.
Definitely. Now, what is your favorite outdoor activity?
I love golfing. I golfed all through high school, middle school. I've been golfing for a while, and I love that. Hopefully, at the end of these four, maybe 5 years playing hockey at college, I want to play some college golf if I'm good enough. Um, but yeah, I love golfing.
What's your handicap?
I've never gone through that before, but I shoot on for 9 holes. I shoot low 40s, between 42 to 45, and then obviously you can do the math on 18 holes. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's impressive. You might need to give me some lessons because my putting game has been pretty bad to say the least. What's the key for having a putting game? Because I feel like I have the yips. I just can't get it in the hole sometimes.
right. I think every course is different, right? You have some fast greens, slower greens, and you just gotta adjust to that before you get out there. And then a nice smooth tempo. That's about it. Those are the tips that I got.
Is there any pro golfer you would love to go golfing with one day?
Any pro golfer? Not necessarily, but I have heard Coach Sisti is a really good golfer. So maybe at the end of my time here at Mercyhurst, I'll be able to golf with him and see what all the hype's about.
You should ask him this summer. I feel like that'll be fun.
That'd be pretty cool. That'd be funny. I assume he's doing the golf tournament here because Mercyhurst has some fundraisers through golf tournaments. But that'd be pretty funny.
So you scout him this year, all right, and then next year you offer, and then you have some tape on him so you know how what things work for him and what things don't work for him, so you can help him out and he can help you out, and then you can be potentially all set if you want to do college golf after Mercyhurst.
There you go. That's perfect. That's a perfect plan.
Definitely, definitely. Now let's talk a little bit about some of your teammates. Who's the funniest teammate you have at Mercyhurst?
Funniest teammate would definitely be Gabby Cox.
Nice. Everyone says she's the funniest for all the people I've interviewed from Mercyhurst. What makes her so funny? Like any jokes that she pulls off in the locker room?
She's just always super energetic and super sarcastic and always throwing around jokes, even if it's about herself. She's got the right thing to say every single time.
Now, who has the best style on the team besides yourself?
On ice or off ice?
Let's do both.
All right. Off ice, I'd say Jordan Mortlock. On ice, AJ. AJ Weiss, absolutely.
Now, who on the team is the best trash talker?
Whew. I'm gonna have to say Emily Pinto, just because of the some of the accusations she had this year from other teams saying she's been saying things that she never said. But she's always got some chirps to get in there.
Nice. Now, final non-hockey question. If you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
Hmm, that's a tough one, but I have to go with Henrik Lundqvist just because he's been a role model of mine for so long, and I'd love to maybe not lunch, but maybe get on the ice with him and try to put a puck in the net past him.
Yeah, that I think that would be pretty hard though, because I don't know if you've been following him. He's been training like super hard lately since he hasn't played a game this year. So I think that would be tough, but I feel like you could do it if there's anyone.
Yeah, maybe one day.
I wouldn't, if I would ever have lunch with Henrik, I would not actually ask him any hockey questions. I'll ask him fashion questions because that dude has like the best dresser I've ever seen in the NHL. And I feel like he can give me some good pointers.
That is true. Him and his brother, they dress to impress.
I think it's the European style. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's just that.
That's true. That's true. You point that out. We have two Europeans in our team, so yeah, I would agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah, Europeans know how to dress, so I got to give it to those guys.
Absolutely.
Now back to some hockey questions. Now, what should be done to? I guess like what advice would you give a younger player who's trying to pursue a Division I college hockey scholarship?
I think growing up kind of depends on the age, but stop focusing. Keep yourself goal oriented, but stop focusing so much on I have to do this because this person is watching. If you see clipboards around the rink and see all those scouts and those hats in big name schools, you need to just not worry about it and act like they're not there and just play your game, because it's gonna deteriorate your game and those opportunities you have when those people are watching.
Now, what should be done to be help? What should be done to help grow women's hockey, in your opinion? I know you talked about it earlier regarding the World Championships, but is there anything that could be done on the college hockey level that can help grow the sport?
Right. As long as things like that don't happen often, I think what you're doing with this right now is helping our game and the women's game. I think just, yeah, not necessarily televising, but putting out there in social media, just spreading the game. I think it's growing as a whole, women's hockey, but to continue that upwards trend, um, just media, media, media.
Now, do you have any shout outs you'd like to give to any of your teammates, friends, or family members? I know I mentioned a few people throughout the interview, but if there's anyone I forgot to mention, feel free to shout them out now.
I think I got them all. I said a few on the team, so if I didn't, I'm sorry, thinking of you. But no, maybe just mom and dad. Hi, mom and dad.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Jersey. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure getting the chance to meet and talk with you today. Good luck for the rest of this off season. I look forward to watching you play next year.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.